What's going on guys, Kieran Scott here. In today's video I'm just going to discuss the top 5 back exercises that I would personally do if I was training in a commercial gym and I had kind of limited equipment. When it comes to training your back, there are lots of different ways in which you can do that to give that 3D V-taper look. Personally, I'm just going on the approach of minimum equipment and making sure that you can do this anywhere. There are lots of different exercises. One is not better than the other. Everyone has their own individual preference, but this is what I've found personally has worked best for me in order to kind of grow my back and also develop it. There's a few reasons why I've chosen these specific exercises, just so we can hit the back in kind of all the angles. So we've got a pull down variation so we can target the lats. I'm going to have a horizontal pull, so we're pulling ourselves into something. I've also got 2 isolation movements where you have to keep your back nice and tight in order to put under tension. So again guys, I hope you enjoy it. You might learn a few things, and if you do, hit the like button, it would massively help. So with all the exercises you're going to see today, there are going to be lots of different variations so you can mix up your training and keep it a little bit more fun. Ultimately, the best way to get results is making sure you're sticking to a decent program and making sure you're progressing. So the first exercise that we're going to do today is a wide grip pull-up. So again, you want to make sure that it's about shoulder width apart, slightly wider. You're going to pull your shoulder blades back and pull yourself up. Now, this is the traditional way of kind of growing your back. As education and science has got more smarter and we've learned a little bit more since exercising a couple of years ago, the real function of the lat is to keep it nice and close. So if you want to build a good strong back, you want to make sure that your arms are nice and close to your back. So this is where I would prefer to do kind of a chin up or a hammer grip pull-up option. So you can see that now where you have your hands close together, and then what you want to do is make sure you pull your shoulders back. Now if there's anything that I've learned over the years, and I wish I'd learned this sooner, is to develop a good back you need to focus on scapular retractions. You need to focus on pulling your shoulder blades back, keeping your back nice and tight, and then pulling with the elbows. If you do those tips, you'll grow a big back. Now on to one of my personal preferences, and a horizontal row. So I'm going to show you a couple of different options. So if you're a beginner, you want to make sure that the bar is quite tall. So again, the taller the bar, kind of less resistance you're going to put on it, because obviously gravity. If you're vertically underneath it, obviously because of the law of gravity, it's going to be a little bit harder. So I'd recommend starting it with a decent height where you can do, I don't know, 8 to 10 reps, and then as you become a little more stronger, then you can look at dropping it down. So you can see in the video I've gone from one height to the other. Again, the idea of this one is to try and engage your core and keep your body as tight and as straight as possible. Again, pulling back the shoulder blades and pulling with the elbow. Eventually you will be able to do this full movement where you can use a box or you can use a bench. Now like I said, what you want to do is make sure that your body is nice and straight, you're holding your weight, you're pulling your shoulders back and pulling yourself up. I personally like to make sure that my hands are shoulder width apart and they're not any wider. And again, with this exercise you want to make sure that you're taking your time and not rushing it. Again, if this exercise is too easy for some of you advanced people out there, you could probably look at putting a weighted vest on or adding some plates onto there. Or next up we have a single arm row. So I'm a big believer of having to do sides independently. So you have to work your left side, then your right side. So I'd always typically look at starting with the weakest side first. Now there's a couple of different ways you can do this. The first way I'm going to do is kind of like a more of a row exercise, ideally working kind of the rhomboid, so the muscles on the back of your shoulders. Again, what you want to do is make sure your hands are pressing down, you're keeping your back nice and flat, nice and straight, even though your spine's curved. And again, what you want to do is pull with the elbow. So you come all the way down so you can get a good stretch on the lat. And then as you pull up, hold at the top for 2 seconds and then slowly lower it down. Now the idea when you're weightlifting is to take your time and put maximum time under tension with this. It's not a workout where you want to go fast. The slower the better, and if you add that 2-second pause at the top, that will make a massive difference. Again, learning how to keep your shoulders back is key. So now we're kind of doing the same exercise but a different variation, so trying to target the lats. So what I would always say to clients is think about a Nike tick. We want to start at the bottom and then we swoosh up. So the idea is to obviously make sure that the dumbbell is away from us, slightly angle the dumbbell down, I find works better for me, and then as we come up, pull with the elbow and come up to the top and squeeze. So that is a good way of getting a great stretch on the lat. Again, slow and controlled, make sure you do the weaker side first. But with this one, again, just think of it as a Nike tick, coming down to the bottom and then swooshing up. Again, don't rush this, take your time. Now this is one of the most underrated exercises, and this is called a carry. Now you can do this with lots of different ways. You can do this with dumbbells, you can do this with kettlebells, or if your facility has it, you can do the farmer carries with the big atlases. This is great for obviously keeping your back nice and tight and core strength. I can tell you now guys, by doing this, I did one workout once, it was a 10-minute EMOM. I had to do so many lengths with the big atlas carries, and my traps were absolutely fried the following day. So this is brilliant to build a good strong back. This is totally functional guys. You can look at this in real life. So you're carrying your shopping from your car to your house. With this one, keep your shoulders back, push them down, squeezing the glutes. This is where a lot of people go wrong. You need to squeeze your glutes and take your time. Do not rush it. If you watch strongmen, when they do this, they take their time. They make sure their feet are planted before they do it. So it's not a running exercise. Take your time, engage your core. If you do this, this will honestly make your traps blow. Do this with one bit of equipment, so one dumbbell, one kettlebell. It is slightly a little bit more difficult because obviously you have to keep yourself upright. So your spine and your erector spine that's coming down your back, you don't want to be walking around like you're slanted. You have to work extra hard to keep yourself upright. So if you want a little challenge, add this into your workouts. It doesn't need to be overly heavy, but again, focus on positional strength. Make sure you're up and you're nice and straight, and then you're walking forward. One thing that I like to do is kind of fixate my eyes on a specific spot and then walk towards that. Now moving on to one of the king compound lifts for growing your back, especially the thickness, is a bent over row. Now with a bent over row, you need to make sure that obviously you've got a slight bend in your knees and you're pushing your hips back and you're leaning over to a kind of like a 45-degree angle. You don't want to leave too far forward because obviously that will put a lot of pressure on your lower back. See, a lot of people go far too heavy with this exercise. I would personally recommend about taking your time and engaging your shoulder blades and then pulling in towards your belly button. Now obviously with this, grip is going to be a limiting factor, so I'd probably recommend maybe if you're going heavy, use some wrist straps. That's only if grip isn't a priority for you. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of functional exercises and grip is important, then I wouldn't necessarily use them. But if you're obviously trying to maximize muscle growth, I would recommend having some straps. Now obviously if you want to mix your training up, you can do something where we call an underhand grip, so supinated, so your palms are facing down like this, so your hands are facing up. So this way you're going to hit more of kind of like the upper back and towards the middle. Again, you will feel a little bit more in your bicep, but this is where you need to switch on and you need to focus on pulling with your elbows. You need to be slow and controlled and execute this with good form. I don't want to see you throwing about. Again, take your time, slow and controlled. Feel the muscle you're trying to work and engage with it. There's no point shifting the weight. You want to lift. It's called weight lifting. So we are going to lift the weight and we want to make sure that we're getting maximum return from this. Now I've chucked in a third variation just because some of you might have dodgy backs or some of you might be beginners. Now this is one thing that I wish I did at an early age in order to kind of grow my back, was to do these kind of prone rows. Tricky to get the barbell out of the rack, but once you've got it out of the rack, you can really focus on the muscular contraction and you can get a good understanding on what you're trying to work. I've done it so many times in the past where I feel that it's my lower back that's getting worked rather than anything, just because obviously the weight's quite difficult and my back can't handle the weight. So again, I would look at swapping these out, and again, if you do not have a barbell that you can do this, you can do them with dumbbells. I did them yesterday for the first time in a long time, and my top of my back is absolutely ruined. If you go heavy, again, use straps. With all the previous exercises, this last one, I've saved it to the end, is probably the best return of investment, and this is an isometric hold. This is what we call a rack pull. So it's a variation of a deadlift, but it's more towards the top, so you're working your back as opposed to your glutes and hamstrings. The idea is to keep your back as tight as possible and really squeeze it, and then perform the last portion of the deadlift. If you want to get more glute and hamstring, then you drive your hips in towards the bar, but again, I would looking at probably doing a little bit of a hinge and keeping my back as tight as possible. Now with this one, you are seeing me reset my shoulder blades every time. I have a tendency to allow my shoulders to come forward and rotate forward. So what I like to do before I even do a rack pull is set my shoulders back, engage my lats, and then drive up that way. So if you are someone that struggles with deadlifts and your shoulders are coming forward, focus on pulling your shoulder blades down, lock them into place, engage the lats, and then drive in that way. That's my 5 best exercises in order to grow your back with limited equipment, and also to do that in a commercial gym. Now that's not to say that these are the best exercises, there are lots of different things to do. I'd probably recommend doing some machine work too, to progressively overload the muscle and make it more difficult. But this video was just to run through the 5 exercises in which I would probably do myself if I had limited equipment. Guys, as normal, I hope you have enjoyed the video. If you have got a ton of knowledge out of that and you have enjoyed this type of style of video, if I could ask you to leave the thumbs up and also subscribe if you're new to the channel. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If there are any of you guys that want to transform and take their physique to the next level, or they think that they would massively benefit in having a program designed personally around their goals and their nutrition, I do offer one-to-one online coaching where I will be able to take your physique to the next level. Now obviously if you're not in that stage where you can do that, I do have a free 30-day ebook that you can download. I'll put the link below. Again, that's got a combination of functional bodybuilding, cross building is what I like to call it, where you've got your bodybuilding and then you've got your CrossFit conditioning. Like I said, if you guys do want that, it's free of charge. I'll put the link below. With enough of that said, if you're not already subscribed, last shout out, please subscribe guys, it helps out massively, you have no idea. And I will catch you in the next one. Look after yourselves, keep it real, and I'll catch you in the next one.